At exactly 22:14 hours on March 20th, 2026, deep inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Carl Vinson Strike Group patrolling the North Arabian Sea, the world's most advanced Aegis radar system erupted in red. 2 infrared flare signatures had just scorched across the U.S. Space-Based Infrared System, SBIRS, satellite constellation over the Persian Gulf. The reading was unmistakable. 2 Iranian ballistic missiles had just launched from hardened underground silos buried inside the Zagros mountain range. Their target was not a warship, not a carrier strike group. It was something far more audacious. 4,000 kilometers to the southeast, on the remote coral atoll of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, America's most critical power projection hub in the entire Indo-Pacific theater, 5,000 U.S. Enduran British service members had just become the targets of the longest ballistic missile shot in Iran's history. The message from Tehran was unmistakable. We can reach everywhere you hide. But what Iran did not know, could not know, is that 40 seconds before those missiles cleared their launch tubes, a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine lying dark and silent in the depths had already flagged the thermal pre-launch signatures to CENTCOM. The kill chain was already active, and the next 7 minutes and 32 seconds would either validate Iran's most desperate gamble of the war or expose the catastrophic limits of their strategic reach. This is the story of the most audacious missile attack of the 2026 Iran war, and the system of systems response that turned Tehran's long-range ambition into a graveyard of burning debris at the edge of space. To understand why Diego Garcia became Iran's new target on March 20th, we must trace the battlefield logic back 1 week. On March 13th, Operation Epic Fury entered a new and devastating phase. In a 26-hour continuous bombing campaign, US B-1B Lancers and B-2 Spirit stealth bombers from the 509th Bomb Wing, flying non-stop from Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, delivered over 90 precision strikes against Kharg Island, Iran's critical oil export hub responsible for 90% of the country's petroleum exports. The weapons employed included the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, a 30,000-pound bunker buster capable of defeating 61 meters of reinforced concrete, deployed specifically against underground naval mine storage sites and hardened coastal defense missile batteries. By dawn on March 14th, CENTCOM confirmed the destruction of 44 Iranian mine layers, over 120 naval vessels, and the complete disablement of Bandar Imam Khomeini Port's military logistics chain. Admiral Brad Cooper, CENTCOM commander, was unequivocal. The United States had achieved full air superiority over Iran and secured the Strait of Hormuz as an open transit corridor for international shipping. Over 7,000 total Iranian targets had been struck since day one of Operation Epic Fury. For the IRGC Aerospace Force's surviving strategic planners, buried in hardened bunkers beneath Tehran, this was the moment humiliation became intolerable. Iran's navy was shattered. Its air defense network had been dismantled layer by layer. Its ballistic missile inventory, once numbering in the thousands, was decimated across 26 provinces. But deep inside the tunnels of a concealed silo complex 38 kilometers northeast of Ahvaz, a single battery of upgraded Khorramshahr 4 intermediate-range ballistic missiles, with a range exceeding 5,000 kilometers, had survived, deliberately dispersed and shielded from satellite detection by clever use of decoy thermal signatures. The surviving IRGC missile officers had received a single order from the Supreme National Security Council: demonstrate reach. Show Washington that Iran can strike beyond the Persian Gulf. Make the world recalculate the price of this war. Diego Garcia was the only target that could send that message loud enough. Do you think this gamble was Iran's last strategic card to play? Comment below. At 22:06 hours on March 20th, the launch crews for Battery Zulfikar activated the propellant loading sequence deep underground. The move was engineered to exploit what Tehran's intelligence analysts believed was a 14-minute detection-to-kill chain gap in U.S. Navy SM-3 ballistic missile defense coverage in the southern Indian Ocean. Their calculation was based on the last known position of the USS Barry, the nearest Aegis BMD-capable destroyer, which Iranian signals intelligence had tracked to a position over 780 nautical miles northwest of Diego Garcia. Well outside the SM-3 Block 2A's maximum engagement envelope against a high-velocity IRBM. What Iran's intelligence network had failed to detect was the USS Preble, an Arleigh Burke Flight 2A destroyer, now operating under complete MCON emissions control 310 nautical miles west-southwest of Diego Garcia, dark, silent, running on electric propulsion at 6 knots. Positioned there 72 hours earlier by order of the Pacific Fleet Commander, who had anticipated exactly this escalation vector. At 22:08 hours, Missile 1 ignited. 157,000 kilograms of nitrogen tetroxide and UDMH propellant tore through the silo cover. A 6,800 kilogram warhead on a 13-meter steel column screamed into the night sky, climbing at 4 degrees per second, punching through the stratosphere at Mach 6.8. The Esper's GEO-4 satellite detected the launch plume at 22:08 and 41 seconds. The automated alert reached CENTCOM MacDill, the Aegis combat system baseline 9.2 aboard the USS Preble, and the combined US-UK Joint Operations Center at Diego Garcia simultaneously in under 0.4 seconds. On the atoll, alarm klaxons ripped through the humid tropical night. Alarm, ballistic missile inbound, take cover, take cover. The 36 B-52 H Stratofortresses on the tarmac began emergency dispersal. 5,000 personnel dove for hardened shelters. They had 8 minutes. At 22:09 22 hours, aboard the USS Preble, Commander Harrington's Aegis fire control computer presented its first intercept solution. Time of flight 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The SM-3 Block 2A, jointly developed by the United States and Japan at a unit cost of $36 million, is the most advanced exo-atmospheric ballistic missile interceptor in the world. Its kinetic warhead contains no explosive. It destroys re-entry vehicles through sheer kinetic energy. A 2-kilogram tungsten kill ring moving at 13,000 kilometers per hour, colliding with the nose cone of an inbound warhead. The intercept window, a precise 40-meter kill box at an altitude of 240 kilometers. Missed by 50 meters, and Diego Garcia burns. The commander authorized the launch at 22:09:41. The SM-3 Block 2A erupted from the forward Mk-41 vertical launch system cell, a column of white fire lighting up the black Indian Ocean surface for miles. The ship's spy 1DV phased array radar tracked both the SM-3 and the Iranian re-entry vehicle simultaneously at a data update rate of 10 times per second. At the same time, Missile 2 cleared its silo. Zulfikar 2 appeared successful for exactly 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Then, at an altitude of 47,000 meters, the sustainer turbopump failed catastrophically. Stage separation did not occur. The re-entry vehicle tumbled uncontrolled into the upper atmosphere, disintegrating 1,200 kilometers short of Diego Garcia. Iran's redundancy had just self-destructed in the dark, but Missile 1, Zulfikar 1, was tracking true. It was descending now, the ablative heat shield glowing at 1,700 degrees Celsius, screaming toward the Indian Ocean at Mach 7. And if you believe the SM-3 can thread that 40-meter kill box, comment 1 below. At 22:16:09 hours, 247 kilometers above the Indian Ocean, the SM-3 Block 2A's kinetic kill vehicle deployed its FLIR sensor package, locked onto the thermal bloom of the descending Iranian re-entry vehicle, and computed a zero-miss distance intercept solution in 0.07 seconds. The collision generated an energy release equivalent to 80 kilograms of TNT, but there was no explosion. Only a violent burst of superheated titanium and carbon composite as the Khorramshahr 4 warhead shattered into 11,000 fragments at the edge of space. No debris large enough to survive atmospheric re-entry reached the surface. Aboard the Preble, the Aegis battle management system updated its tactical display. Track destroyed, confident kill confirmed. At Diego Garcia Joint Operations Center, the encrypted red circuit crackled at 22:16:22. Splash. 1 confirmed destroyed, 2nd warhead, self-destructed, base is clear. Not a single voice cheered. Every watch officer in that room already understood what this engagement had just proven. Iran could reach Diego Garcia. The missiles had failed tonight. But the launch signature was now fully cataloged in the NSA's SIGINT library, and CENTCOM's target list had just expanded by 1 battery. By 22:40 hours, President Trump had been briefed in the Situation Room. Within 73 minutes of the Preble's intercept, a Global Hawk RQ-4B Block 40 drone loitering at 65,000 feet above the Iranian coast had locked onto the still-hot thermal signature of the silo complex near Avaz using residual propellant vapor. 6 F/A-18E Super Hornets from the USS Carl Vinson, flying at 42,000 feet with APG-79 AESA radar and air-to-ground mode, cross-referenced the coordinates. 2 AGM-158BJ ASSMER cruise missiles, launched from B-1B Lancers operating out of Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, struck the silo entry portals at 23:58:34, collapsing the reinforced concrete launch structures and entombing what remained of Battery Zulfikar beneath 60 meters of rubble. The Khorramshahr 4 program had been surgically erased. Iran had wagered its longest spear and missed. The response was clinical, precise, and total. But the war did not stop there. Simultaneously, in a theater that no Western military had ever dared to touch, Israel's IAF conducted its first-ever combat strikes against Iranian naval targets in the Caspian Sea. 2 Iranian Sina-class fast attack frigates and a submarine support vessel anchored at the Bandar Anzali naval base were struck by F-35 Awadir jets carrying Spice 250 precision bombs, crossing an invisible strategic red line that military analysts had considered permanently off-limits. The message was deliberate and perfectly synchronized. While Iran reached south toward Diego Garcia, the coalition reached north into the Caspian. The geometric encirclement of the Islamic Republic was now complete on every compass bearing. On March 21st, even as the fires at Bandar Anzali still burned, the USS Boxer Amphibious Ready Group entered the Persian Gulf carrying 2,200 Marines of the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit, a ground force option now 72 hours from the Iranian coast. On social media that morning, President Trump wrote, "We are considering winding down our military efforts." But inside the CENTCOM operations tent, the watch floor was at maximum tempo. What Trump was winding down was the tolerance for a regime that had just proven it would target American bases 4,000 kilometers from its borders. The next strike package was already approved. The intercept over the Indian Ocean on March 20th, 2026 was not a lucky shot. It was the product of 40 years of ballistic missile defense investment, from the Strategic Defense Initiative of the 1980s to the joint US-Japanese development of the SM-3 Block 2A. It was the product of a decision made 72 hours earlier by a Pacific Fleet commander who moved a single destroyer to a precise coordinate in a vast ocean, because the intelligence picture said Iran might reach that far. And it was the product of one watchstander on the USS Preble who authorized a launch with 8 minutes on the clock and 5,000 lives depending on a 2-kilogram tungsten ring hitting a dinner plate-sized target at the edge of space. Iran demonstrated its reach on March 20th. America demonstrated something more important. It had already been there, waiting, before the first missile left the ground. The oceans are no longer safe zones, not for any power, not from any direction. And the next time a ballistic missile rises from the Iranian plateau, the Aegis network will already have a firing solution loaded. The question is whether Tehran has the inventory and the will to try again. What do you think? Has Iran played its final strategic card, or is this just the opening move of a more devastating retaliation? Tell us in the comments below. If this tactical breakdown opened your eyes to the hidden geometry of modern warfare, hit the like button and subscribe.